this is Coach Hall, Sports for Real with Coach Hall. Post-election broadcast, they had the national election yesterday. The count still going on. And right now the Republican candidate seems to be on the inside track to become president once again. But that's here nor there with me. It's just what's going on in the world. A lot to talk about. But today I want to go back to what I started doing a year ago. I was recounting the 48 Laws of Power written by Robert Greene and applying it to sports. In the chat, I put the video I did on law number 11 at that time, but it's been a while and I'm not quite sure where I left off because I can't find all my videos. So I'm going to start off with law number 11, and periodically I'm going to go back and add more laws as we move forward. But law number 11 is make others dependent on you. And in high school sports, no better examples of those are high school assistant coaches, whether it be football, basketball, or whatever. But the question is, how do these guys become so valuable? Well, like I said, job security is probably the biggest reason. Coaches are generally hired to be fired. In Florida, for instance, you used to have coaches that would get a job and they'll stay there for a very long time. You don't seem to get that anymore. And while the head coaches move on, a lot of the assistants, they made their home where they are. So they're going to oversee a lot of head coaches come in, and all they have to do is adapt somewhat to whatever it is this new guy wants to do. But if they don't get along, they'll go along just enough so they can keep that job. And when that coach moves on, maybe they can get a better relationship with the next coach. Now, if you go, say, to Georgia, it's a little bit different. I say that because in Florida, they don't have designated positions for coaches. So anybody that's in the school system or working for a school that can get certified through the coaching district office, they can become a coach. And as long as there are positions available, you can become a coach. And that's very true nowadays because a lot of people, they're not doing the coaching like they used to. And they may coach one sport, and you'll find that most teachers in the building, they're not interested in that. They go do clubs or whatever, but they just don't want to be involved with the actual practice and the time that it takes to become, say, a football coach. But you take Georgia, on the other hand, these guys have dedicated positions at their schools for football coaches. It kind of runs like college in a lot of ways. So if you bring a guy in and say he goes 2-8, that's not acceptable for a lot of people. So what he does, he resigns or gets fired in January, and the coaches that were his assistants, they go looking for other positions, and by January they're gone. So those same positions that were open, especially for them when they got there, are going to be open for the next guy. So it's like a built-in system. If you're going to move on somewhere else into the state, doesn't matter. You're going to have a position for you. It's not like I'm walking in off the street and I have to apply for the job to get it. If that football coach hires you, then you already got the job as long as you're certified in a particular subject area. Florida, they don't have that here. And it's kind of critical because there's shortages everywhere. So if you're that long-time assistant that's been around, you got connections with the school board office, you know all the principals, especially in the smaller counties, you can pretty much write your own ticket. And it doesn't make sense to take a head coaching job because now if you get fired, now you may be forced to move on with your family to go somewhere else when you built your life in a particular area. I've known several coaches in high school that have stayed at one school for 30, 40 years doing the same thing, never becoming a head coach because they have no desire to uproot their family and they don't want to live under the scrutiny of maybe I might get fired. But if you really want to be a head coach, you're willing to pack up and move, you're already expected, you know you're not going to stay at a particular place too long. So that's the way these guys get that job security by not abandoning that post. And it's like Silvio of The Sopranos said in the Sopranos, I think it was the year right as Tony got shot, right at beginning of season 6, I believe it was. But he said some people are better at being number twos. And these guys, these long-time assistants, they know exactly who they are, and they don't want to go chasing that nugget that might get them into a worse situation. I see it's going on right now. I'm not going to get into any situations, but I know of a few coaches right now who were long-time assistants, became head coaches. It didn't work out. Now they got to uproot from a place they've been for a long time. So that's just the high school level. College, kind of the same way. College and pro kind of intertwine with each other because you have these relationships with coaches all across the nation. So let's just say if I'm at Florida State, I get fired, I can go and call one of my old buddies who's now a head coach somewhere and get down with him. Yes, I'm going to move around much more than the high school coach does, but I'm also getting compensated more. So it's less of a stretch for me to pack up and say go across state when you don't have anything that's guaranteed. But if I'm a college coach and I've been doing it for a while, I got some connections and I'm probably making at least $500,000 a year. So it's no big deal to pack up and move. But then sometimes you have guys like a Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly made his fame at Oregon. He went into the pros for a couple of years in Philadelphia and San Francisco, came back, got the UCLA job. But if you know, last year he was a UCLA coach, he resigned. Now he's the assistant, he's an offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Why would a guy that's a head coach turn that job down to go become an assistant? Well, it's because you don't have the same day-to-day headaches as you have as a head coach when you're an assistant. Let somebody else handle all that day-to-day stuff, and like he said, all he wants to do is just coach football. And the best way to do that is to become an assistant. Still making great money, is at a great institution, and he gets to do what he loves. So it's best to get rid of all that stress and do what you like to do. And if it don't work out, he's got the resume that he can go anywhere else. Now in the NFL, same thing. You got career assistants for guys that, they're pretty good as coordinators, and they don't want to become head coaches because they know 3-4 years they're probably going to be out the door. Why not become an assistant? You might end up like Spagnuolo over in Kansas City. He can stay there as long as Andy Reid is there. And if Andy Reid retires next year or the year after, he can retire right along with him and walk away with 3 or 4 championships and be great. And he never had to swallow that pill, be under the gun of becoming an assistant coach. Now going back to college, he took a guy like Brent Venables. He was considered a great defensive coordinator at Clemson. He won a couple national championships there. His defenses were great. He was the hot child. So he goes to Oklahoma where he had connections. Like I say, these guys got all these connections, and now he's the head coach. They don't look at him the same as they did when he was an assistant. All the pressure now is on Venables to win, and he's not doing so well. I never thought it was a great fit, but anytime that you got a guy that starts to win, people think, well, automatically he can do better over to somewhere else, just like he's doing in his current spot. But he just never came off to me as a head coach, and I'm seeing that unfold right before my eyes. If they don't get rid of him this year, they're probably definitely going to get rid of him next year. And the only reason they may not get rid of him this year is because they don't want to lose but so much money. And that's the problem. Same thing with pro sports. You sign these guys to these big contracts, and then they don't want to play. NBA is a perfect example. Did you know now that they're talking about we don't want to play back-to-back games in the NBA? Now here's a guy with a $300-400 million contract talking about he don't want to play back-to-back. Why? To save your body? Once you pay this guy all this money, what are you going to do? Cut him? No, because you're on the hook just like Oklahoma with Venables. So as the money went up, now the control really kind of shifts to the athletes. Yes, the owners can get rid of them, but they're going to have to go hire somebody else, and they're going to have to pay them a whole lot of money. And who really gains in this situation? I can tell you who loses is the fan, because the prices keep going up, and the product on the field and court keeps going down. And the players could care less because they're getting paid. Same thing in college. It's going the same way. Once these guys started getting paid, which I think they should get something because they produce a whole lot of money for the institutions, but now they can bounce around and do what they want to do and pretty much tell a coach where to go and what can they do? Because all he's going to do is go to another institution. It's like Deion's son said, you don't worry about signing up for spring classes because he's going to the league. He's not concerned about it. These guys are changing teams where you're supposed to be rivals. Take ETN from Florida. He went to Georgia. Now he's a Bulldog. Played against them last week. The whole sports world is flipped upside down. There's no stability. But when you have these assistant coaches, they kind of get the lay of the land of what's going on, and they can figure out what's best for them and the best place for them to go to make sure that they have security. And you can't get that security if you want to be a head coach and keep bouncing around. But it's quite lucrative. If you land the right spot, you make that money, it doesn't matter. Fire me too, as long as you pay me that $50 million you owe me. Don't be like some of these college coaches and get fired and have several $1 million on the contract. Then they go take another job and they lose all that money just to go try to prove that they can still coach. You fired me with 20, 30 million still on the table. I'm sitting out, make sure I get all my money. You're gonna pay me. Then I go get a job against a team that you play against, and we're gonna beat you. That's just the way I see it. All right, let's take a look at some of this election. How you feeling about the election, Unc? Well, I would say that I lost the ability to believe in the power of the American voter. And take that how you want, but that's where I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to leave it there. How you feeling that you concerned with the election and not focusing on God, bro? I focus on what I want to focus on. If you don't want to listen, go somewhere else. But anyway, what else? That's all the comments I got. I believe that God gets you. Well, I'm not getting into that religion stuff. Religion and politics are the same to me. Those are polarizing subjects, and that's why I like to talk about sports. So I don't eschew anybody who wants to get heavily involved in such things. I'm aware of what's going on in the world. I'm aware of what's going on in the nation, and I'm going to keep that as private. But I understand your viewpoint, but I just can't get into how am I being negative. I'm not being negative, man. I'm just avoiding touchy subjects. I don't want to do that. I just want to talk about sports. And today I'm talking about how the 48 Laws of Power, law number 11, where you want to make people get having you around, you want to make people value you. And these assistant coaches I'm talking about, on all levels, they have found a way to do that. And I think it's ingenious that some of these guys know what their values are, knowing that maybe they could get a head coaching job, especially if you're in a successful position where your team is winning consistently, but that comes with a price. Yeah, you might get a big contract with another school somewhere, but now you have to show what you can really do. You can be an assistant, do a couple things that you're good at, but you're not good at the whole thing, and that will show immediately once you become the head coach. Belichick, he was a great defensive coordinator, but he was not very good at handling the media, which is why he found himself a way to be able to talk to the media without making himself look bad. So the best thing sometimes to do is just not say anything or give you information that can be used against you. And Belichick was a master at it. He was also a great coach. But a lot of people who were long-time assistants like Belichick, they don't make it. That's why you see the heavy turnover you see in the NFL. And college, not so much, because college, you can go somewhere and win 7, 8 games, and that'd be great. But then you have places like high school football, Valdosta, Georgia, you lose one game, they want to run you out of town because they have this unrealistic expectation that they should win every game every year. And of course, we know better than that. But that's just the way they are. But the coaches in Georgia, high school football, a lot of them make well over $100,000. And they have very few, if any, teaching responsibilities. And keep in mind, we're still talking about education. Where's the education involved here when people making all this money? The football coach is making double the money of a lot of teachers. So where do our values really lie? You want to win the big game, or you want to try to shape minds? Educate them. That's the real question. So we got a lot of questions to ask ourselves. But again, we're talking about the 48 laws of power and the assistant coaches, how they have found a way to make people depend on them. Because these guys, they know all the people. They have plenty of contacts. They have contacts downtown with the school board offices. They have contacts in the school information department. They just connected all the way. And not just in their institution, they're connected wherever else they may go. So it's very important for these people to have these connections because it gives them longevity, and a lot of these people have proven it over the years. Now, I will say this about these assistant coaches. The day of the coach being around 30 years at one school, or better yet, 30 years in the sport at all, that is waning. Because if you know that in high school sports, there are 32 states now that have NIL, just like you have in college. The athlete here in Florida can get an NIL deal. But I just see today where the athlete, he's making more money than his head coach. And he's going to point that out to the coach. And what you're going to have is an implosion of the whole system. Here's is supposed to be about education, but yet money has come in. And now let's make this kid feel like he's on a higher plane than the guy that's supposed to be teaching him something. That's never going to work. So when the money starts rolling in like that, it's going to be a big problem. Now, it's going to be less of a problem on the public school side because they don't have the money that the private schools get. So that's what you're going to start seeing is a shift of the athletes, the better athletes, going over to the private schools because they can get connections with the corporate world to get them NIL deals. So while they may seem like they want to win, what they're really doing is trying to get themselves paid. And it's the same thing I try to tell guys in the public school. College is the new pro now. You don't have to go to college and try to make it to the pros from there. They're making pro money in college now. There are a lot of millionaires walking around these college campuses now that used to be dead broke. Is it a good thing? Depending on who you ask. But the opportunity is there. So if you want to put the work in, you don't have to go to a private school to do that. If our generation, or myself, was coming through now, whatever I was good at, you can best believe. Before school, I got my workout. I'm going to practice. And after school, I got more workout. And if it's football, I'm in the film room at night, and I'm going to do the same thing every day. Not because I'm trying to get to professional football. It's that I'm trying to get to college football, which is the new pros, which would pay me some decent money. And that's all the people are really trying to do is set them and their families up for the future. And that's just my take on that. So again, just to recap, talked about the 48 laws of power and how it applies to sports. Make others dependent on you. That's law number 11. And assistant coaches at all levels, at all sports, there's always somebody that's been around for years and they found a way to make themselves valuable and have people dependent on them. Anytime an old coach goes out, that same guy's still around, who do they come to? They come to get the lay of the land, the lay of your opponents, the lay of everything. And the assistant coaches have all that information. So that's just my take on that. So until next time, this has been Sports for Real. I got to go to work. You guys have a great day.